Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Masjid Wartadi Muhammad's Sunday Taleem session. Every Sunday we have something a little different from our pioneers, our youthful adults, our imam section, and our sisters. And this week we have a presentation from someone who's near and dear to my heart, Sister Charlotte Shaheed, on her trip to Senegal at the end of Ramadan. So with no further ado, Sister Charlotte Shaheed.
Assalamu alaikum. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. I'm happy to be here today to share my experiences at the end of Ramadan and just after Ramadan in Senegal. Allah blessed me with the opportunity to make this trip, which was something I had never envisioned for myself. But Allah put things in motion and He prepared the way for me. And I'm thankful, and I took advantage of the opportunity He presented. To start off, the picture you see is the travel group that I was with. The 6 of us Muslim sisters were on a journey. And the title of our journey was Eid in the Motherland. That was what it was called, Eid in the Motherland. And the travel group was put together by Sisters Zarina El-Amin, and she has a website and a following that's called Enliven Your Soul. And through this trip, I think each of us managed to get some enlivenment for our spirituality, for our souls. The picture you see was taken inside of the Grand Mosque in Dakar, Senegal. And the tour guide made a point of mentioning to us, ladies, that masjid was built by a woman. And we went back, we're looking. And then we got information and clarified. The sister owned, you hear me, she owned the construction company that built the masjid. And she donated out of her own funds to also help with the construction. So women are not relegated to just one little sphere of life. She owned the construction company that built that beautiful facility. Senegal is a country in West Africa, and it is actually geographically the westernmost point on the whole continent. The westernmost point. And the winds that blow over that area are constant and almost hurricane force at times. And in class, I remember the instructors talking about the trade winds. And during hurricane season, you'll hear about the trade winds. What I learned on this trip was that they left out one word. It's not trade winds, it's the slave trade winds, because that is the jump off point for most of the slaves that were shipped to the Americas. And the winds blow consistent and hard from there all the way to the Caribbean. So the slave trade winds are what drives the ships from Senegal to the Americas. I did this little itinerary and I may deviate from it. The picture you see there now is another picture of the outside of that same masjid. And the masjid takes up like a whole city block. And all the paving stones around it, the marble, people are all out there making salat when you have large congregations. So the first thing I want to mention for this trip is, you think of motivation. Why travel? Why go? You know, what's the point? Just to be there? And the point for me comes from Surah 49 and Ayat 13. And Allah tells us, O humanity, indeed, we created you from a male and a female and made you into peoples and tribes so that you may get to know one another. Surely the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous among you. And Allah is truly all-knowing, all-aware. So the purpose of the trip was getting to know family. And that is the way it was viewed. We traveled to the motherland, but what we're doing is meeting cousins. It's like going to a big family reunion, and there's your second cousin over there. You never met him before. You heard his name. You never saw him. That's what this was like. It was meeting family. And that was the vibe we got from everybody we met. Everybody was welcoming. Everybody was friendly. Everybody was helpful. It was, you were with family. So the point of this trip was getting to know family, getting to know other people. Getting there. Getting there was a journey all of its own. And especially during Ramadan, when you travel, there's a question. Do you fast or don't you fast? What do you do? And within our group, we had some people who fasted and some people who didn't. And we had to understand the reasoning behind it. From what I've been told, there were times when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam traveled, and sometimes he fasted and sometimes he didn't. So we have the option. What happened for most of us, because two of the sisters came from South Florida, two from Detroit, one from Atlanta, and I'm from Houston. So we all met up there. And different ones did different things. I wound up fasting. We left on March 25th. So on the 25th, alhamdulillah, I fasted because my flight left at a time where I could have suhoor in the morning, and I broke my fast in the airport, that night. The next day, because the flight had us traveling all night long, and left on the 25th, did not get to the hotel in Senegal until the morning of the 27th. So on the 26th, with the travel, did not fast because there was no way for me to discern when to make suhoor. We were over the ocean, flying. There was no geographical point. I couldn't tell when to, fast, when not to fast. So that day of travel, we did not fast. Once we got into Senegal, then we started fasting again. But getting there was a journey. Most of us got delayed flights and canceled flights, and we met up in the airport in Paris, and then from Paris we got transferred to Senegal. So that's another whole story. The first place that we visited, I don't count Dakar then, because all we did was land in Dakar, get our luggage, get in the cars, and drive from Dakar to Medina Bay. And Medina Bay is a small town, and it is about 3 hours drive inland from Dakar. So we were driving in the middle of the night to get there. And this picture here was taken just outside of Medina Bay. And it was taken Eid Day in the afternoon. And again, with the nations and tribes and families, we were adopted into this family group. And the gentleman in the center there is our main tour guide, and he's also the director of the museum in the Museum of African Civilizations in Dakar. His mother is the one in the back, way back there. That picture isn't clear. So that's him, some of his children, nieces and nephews, his mother, his sister-in-law. We joined their family for the Eid. And their family, Eid Day is a family day. You go to the Salat and then you go home and you celebrate with family and visit family and friends all day and into the night. But, okay. This is a picture of us on Eid Day with a Sufi group that is called the Layan community. The Layan, or Layan, I'm not good with languages. And they wear white as a sign of purity. And we knew we would be joining them for Eid, so we wore our white as well. But this picture made me think of Hajj because of all the white. And literally in front of you and to the sides, as far as you could see, was a sea of white, and it was all worshipers there for the Eid. Let's see. Medina Bay. Things are kind of jumbled up here, but we'll continue with the pictures. I took this photo from the rooftop of the hotel where we stayed in Medina Bay. The minarets you see in the background are from the masjid, the main masjid in Medina Bay. And Medina Bay is home to the Tijani Sufi Muslims. And what I found in Senegal is that they have different Sufi, for the most part. North Africa and West Africa follow Sufism, the Sufi sects, and they congregate together. It's kind of like here in Houston, where you have the Asian people in one area, and you know the Nigerians have their masjid, and other. The same happens here. So Medina Bay is the home of the Tijani Sufi Muslims. And it's interesting to me that in Medina Bay, they have a large expat or expatriate American community. The leader of their sect, some 20, 25 years ago, wanted to recruit more Muslims from America. And he visited Detroit and I think Atlanta and other places, and he recruited young people to come back to Medina Bay and study. And many of them went there to study Quran and learn Quran. They came back, talked about it, and other people followed them. Many of them now are second or even third generation Americans who have gone there to study. So their children are there, their grandchildren are there. You have a large American expatriate community in Medina Bay. They have two schools that I saw. One was the African American Islamic School, and I forget the name of the other one. But the whole focus of those schools is Quran memorization and learning about Islam. The picture you see on the screen was taken the night of Laylatul Qadr. And what happened on Laylatul Qadr is that the entire town comes to the masjid for Taraweeh. Nobody, nothing else was happening. Nothing was open. No stores are open. No, everybody in the town comes to the masjid for Taraweeh. And out the gates and into the streets, everybody bring their prayer rugs and you sit. But everybody in the town comes to Taraweeh. And this night for Taraweeh, Laylatul Qadr, they had a young man who had just been certified Hafiz al-Quran to lead the Salat. And his mother was from Detroit. I'm not sure where he was born, but he had been there studying. 13 years old, he was certified Hafiz al-Quran that day. And that night, they let him lead the Salat. We were blessed to be in the room listening to him as he completed the last juz. And it was a family affair. They had a panel of other Hafiz with the open Quran, listening to him recite and tracking to make sure he did it right. His mother was there, his father was there, his grandparents were there, his uncles were there. It was a family affair and everybody witnessed it. And that night he led the Salat. So Medina Bay is focused very much on the spirituality of Islam. And learning Quran is the ultimate thing in that community. We stayed in Medina Bay for 2 days, and we visited the marketplace and all. They don't have strip malls and big stores like we have. Everything is little stalls, almost like a flea market, some outdoors, some undercover, and you go through the marketplace and you bargain for what you want. And we visited the markets, we went to the masjid, and at night after Salatul Taraweeh, then we visited different sheikhs' houses for dinner, because the tradition there is you break your fast and then you make salat and then you have the big meal. Well, they don't just do Isha, they do all of Taraweeh, then they have the meal. So you wind up about 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning. That's when you're eating your meal. And we visited the 2 different sheikhs' homes for those meals. And with the sheikh, like here we have a mayor or a city council or somebody that kind of runs things. In that town, it's the sheikhs that run it. And we visited and we made a donation to the sheikhs when you visit him. So he will give you guidance and advice and whatever, but he also uses the money that's donated to take care of the poor and the less fortunate. We donated, and the donations were used to provide iftar for people who came to the masjids. So our iftar provided chicken and potatoes and rice and food, and we fed a little over 100 people that night from our donations from iftar. Let's see, what can I say about Medina Bay? It was an experience for me because I didn't know what to expect when you say you're going to an African village or a small town. I really didn't know what to expect. And what I found was a small town like any small town here, with 1 or 2 exceptions. there, everybody knows everybody. In a small town, everybody knows everybody. But the differences were cosmetic and superficial. The town had one paved road, and that paved road was what connected it to the next town. So it's like a highway. So you have that one paved road. All the other little streets and byways are unpaved, and it's sand or dirt. And the donkeys are free and the goats are free. So when you're walking down the street, you have to really watch where you step. So it makes sense that you take off your shoes when you go to someone's home or into the masjid. So the difference was more cosmetic. A small town is a small town. It wasn't grass huts or anything like you might see in some movies. These were concrete block construction homes, and people function like we function. Along with the donkey and horse carts, you also had motorcycles everywhere. And some people had cars, but they were still bumping over those unpaved roads. But the donkeys, the horses, motorcycles, and a few cars. So cosmetic differences. This is a little minibus that was chartered to take us from Medina Bay back to Senegal, to Dakar. And it was air conditioned and nice, and they put our luggage up top. And we had a wonderful experience driving with this little minibus. It was cute, but it was comfortable. On the way, our tour guide said, "Oh, we have a small detour." And something we hadn't known about. And the detour was here. This is an animal reserve, like a protected area for the animals. And we did like a mini safari tour. We were in an open vehicle and we drove through the bush where the animals were, and we got to see them. Giraffes, as you can see there, were just walking by, and we're sitting in the little car taking pictures. Wow. And we had what we saw. Here we had a couple of rhinos, and we're sitting in the vehicle, and they were like from here to the wall over there. And it stopped. What do I do? I thought I did take a longer video, but evidently that one didn't make it, because this one came trotting across the road. He came right by us and ran in front of us, and they had to put on brakes. And we thought the two of them were going to fight, but it turned out one was male and one was female, and they were getting to know each other. So we moved on from the rhinos, but we got to see quite a few different animals. And learning about culture, we also found in this reserve a large baobab tree. And baobab trees are what some people call the upside down tree, because it looks like the roots are up here part of the year. The branches don't have leaves. Only part of the year they have leaves. So the naked branches up there kind of look like roots. So they say it looks upside down. But those baobab trees are the symbol for Senegal. And some of them are hollow. And in the reserve, we saw one huge tree that was hollow. And it had been used uh, like a cemetery. When people would die, they would put the bodies inside the tree trunk and leave them there. That was how they handled the dead. And the tree we saw, you could see skulls kind of spilling out the bottom. And we were told that when Senegal gained its independence from France, because France was the colonial power, that the first president banned that particular practice once they gained independence, and they no longer buried people in the baobab trees. But we did have a detour. So again, getting to know people, you getting to know the culture, you getting to know what's important to them and what they do. I didn't put on there, but the local language, they have two. Because of colonization, French is the official language, but most people speak a native language called Wolof. And before we took our trip, we had a couple of Zoom calls where we were trying to learn at least basic phrases in Wolof. And for the culture, it really struck me, the blending of things. So if I'm greeting, first thing you do when you see somebody, you greet them. We say assalamu alaikum. That's wonderful. Or, how you doing? Everything. For them in Wolof, it's nangadef. Nangadef means how are you? And the response is alhamdulillah. It's a mix. They have a native phrase that can be used, but they also use alhamdulillah. So you see somebody, nangadef, how are you? Alhamdulillah. And you immediately reply with yawnak and you. You never focus on yourself. You always reciprocate. So whatever is said, you ask somebody how they're doing, and they say, I'm fine, and how are you? You always relate to the other person, yawnak and you. And the other thing that really impressed me about the Wolof language was, Jerry Jeff is thank you. And instead of you're welcome, no kubak. But no kubak means more than you're welcome. It means we shared it. I didn't do anything special. We shared whatever it was, I gave you food and you saying thank you, but we shared the experience. We shared it. So relating to other people is very much a part of the culture. The picture up there now is kind of an overview of a part of Dakar, Senegal. And Dakar is the capital city. And the picture was taken from the top of the African Renaissance Monument. And that is a huge metal statue that is the largest statue in Africa, on the continent. And it sits on top of an old extinct volcano. So it's tall, and then it sits on top of the mountain. And we went to the top of that mountain. Let's see, next photo is in Dakar. This is a lighthouse that was established in 1864. And this lighthouse is still functioning. You can see the beam at night, and it's beautiful. And when we got ready to go up there, they have a restaurant downstairs, and that's where we ate. But to get there, because it is a functioning lighthouse and it's a government facility, we had to do like a TSA to get on the shuttle to get up there. They had to check our purses to see what we had. We didn't have a body search, but you had to go through security to get on the shuttle to take you up to the lighthouse. All right. So I need to move faster. It's kind of hard to condense 10 days, basically 11 days, into a few minutes. So I'll move faster. Okay, this building on the left picture is the Museum of African Civilizations, and it covers the history of humanity. And they focus on the fact that humanity, human beings, started in Africa and spread elsewhere. And it shows you through the different displays all the different contributions that African civilizations gave to the world. These pictures here are from Goree Island. And Goree Island is known as the place where the majority of slaves were shipped from Africa to the Americas, North America, the Caribbean, South America. Most of them went through the facilities on Goree Island. The gentleman on the right picture there sitting was our guide for Goree Island. And he proudly told us of all the different dignitaries that he had guided, including President Obama. He was a wealth of information. The buildings on Goree Island, apart from this, are all shaped like ships, with the prow like a sailing ship. And they house the people in these ships to accustom them to the conditions they would have on the crossing. So it was shaped like a ship, and they had to sleep and lay in those buildings just like they would be on the slave ship. And they had separate buildings for the men, for the women, and for the children, because the children were kept separate. And most of the children did not survive because of the conditions. They also had another housing facility for the very young women, because the very young women would sometimes have a choice of accommodating the slavers or not. If you accommodated the slavers, then you might not get put on the ship. That's as tactful as I can be. The picture here is us, and that to the left, that rectangle, that's the door of no return. That's the last that those people saw of their homeland, of the motherland. The ships were, because that blue is the water. The ships were right there at the door with gangplanks, and they marched them out there in shackles. We saw the shackles. We saw the iron balls that were attached to the shackles. And not only were your legs chained and your arms chained, but you had to carry like this big, heavy cannonball. So even if you wanted to run, you'd have to try to run with the shackles and carry this ball because it was attached. You couldn't.
So this is based in Africa, right?
Yes, in Senegal, West Africa. And the doorway there, it says, Maison des Esclaves. I'm not good in French. House of Slaves. That's the name of the building. That's the House of Slaves. Okay, this is inside the Museum of African Civilizations, and the metal sculpture behind us there is symbolic of the baobab tree. Okay, African Renaissance Monument. Okay. The African Renaissance Monument is in the picture to the right. And it's hard to tell from this, but those are steps. It's a stairway going all the way up, more than 200 steps, close to 300 steps to get to the top. And there you see the statue of the man, the woman, and the man is holding a child. And they have an elevator that will take you all the way up to the top inside of his head. And that photo of Dakar was taken from up at the top there. And again, this is our group. To the left, what you see are images that an artist did to depict the characteristics of different tribes. And there are sections of that throughout the inside of that, because inside of the monument is also a museum. Oh, and I know I'm supposed to make this short, but I have to mention this because it came up so much. A president of Senegal came up with the idea for this monument. And quite a few of our guides mentioned this fact, that because he came up with the idea of the monument and found people to do it, he said that was his intellectual property. So he gets 1/3 of all the income that people pay to visit the museum. And his 1/3 will continue in perpetuity. After he dies, that income will go to his children and his grandchildren, because he came up with the idea. Of course, the resources to build it came from the government coffers, but he gets the benefit. And once he left office, he and his wife moved to France. So he no longer even lives in Senegal. And the Senegalese people resented that. They said the money that was spent on that monument could have been better used to help the people. So since that was mentioned so much by tour guides, I thought it was worth mentioning here. Oh, this is another picture from.
I got a question. So the monument, did they have the people of the community ever try to tear it down or vandalize it?
No. But then they have security surrounding it. So
Okay.
they do have security. Okay, this is another picture from Eid Day. And again, you bring your prayer rugs and you're sitting on the sand because you're right beside the ocean. Again, Eid, and you can see our group in front and the people around us in the ocean over to the side. This is a picture of another masjid. How much time? 5 minutes. Okay, I'll talk fast. This masjid is called the Masjid of the Divinity. And it's called that because there was a fisherman who had a vision, a dream. And in his dream, he saw this masjid. And when he woke up, they say he sketched it out, the picture, how it's shaped. And if you notice, it's like the prow of a ship, like the boat. And you don't find that architecture anywhere else. He talked to friends and family, and it became a community project. And within 5 years, they built that masjid. They have pictures showing how everybody helped, women, children, carrying stones, mixing things. And it reminded me so much of the pictures I saw when this masjid was built. Everybody working together to raise up the frame for the walls, and how everybody worked together. And it just made me think of Masjid Warithuddin Muhammad. The current imam for this masjid is the grandson of the man who had the vision. And he showed us around the masjid. That's him in the white robe. And his grandfather is buried in that little building behind it. And what I found is that in Senegal, people of religious significance are often buried in like these mausoleums, I guess, on the grounds of the masjid. You don't worship in there. It's separate, but it's on the grounds of the masjid. So his grandfather is buried there, and his grandmother is buried in a smaller building behind that. So they are both honored. And it's a beautiful masjid. This is the outside of the masjid that showed initially, the grand masjid that the woman's construction company built. Here's another picture of the inside. Up top there is where the imam gives his khutbah on Friday. And then he comes down to the left, what looks like a big door with the calligraphy. That's the mihrab. That's the direction of the Qibla. So he gives the khutbah upstairs, and then he comes down to that spot and leads the salat. And again, family gatherings for Eid. After we left Dakar, we went to a seaside town, like a resort. It's called Samon. And I took a picture of this because these are like oyster beds where you grow oysters and maybe get pearls. And it was significant because the guide said that this oyster industry is conducted by the women in the village. The women in the village do the oyster farming. And there's a lagoon, a saltwater lagoon, and there's a small island that has one baobab tree. The rest of the lagoon has none, one baobab tree. And what people in the area do is come to that island with the tree, make dua for family members or things they want, and then after they make dua, they put a shell on some of the twigs and limbs of the tree. So this tree has shells all around as high as you can reach. Across the lagoon, they had a wonderful restaurant with good food, and it made me think I was in Jamaica because the name of the restaurant was Chez Rasta. Chez Rasta, yes. And they had fresh seafood. It was gorgeous, and everybody told me it tastes good. I can't eat seafood, but it just was fabulous. And we were right on the water there with the fresh seafood. Okay, village life. This is a little water taxi we took to get from one side of the lagoon to the other. Very small boat, very low in the water. But it got us where we needed to go. The young man sitting there, his name was Sufyan, and his mother is sitting right behind him. Zarina El-Amin is the one who put together the tour. And her son he just turned 19, and he has been living in Medina Bay since he was 13. She sent him over there to live with another family, and he went there to learn Quran. And he was with us for most of the tour, and he kept away the beggars and the people. He kind of shooed them away. And when we went to the markets, he would haggle and bargain for us because he spoke French, English, and Wolof, so he could handle everything. And he was a wonderful young man, Sufyan. Here, we visited another small village. We took the horse carts, like old buckboards, out to the village. And these are fishermen. They weren't able to fish that day because the water was too rough. So they were just sitting around and they had that little basin there and they had a fire in it and they had a little pot on it. They heated the water and they made herb tea. And that was their specialty, the herb tea. And it was like mint and it was very delicious. And we sat with them and listened to their stories and shared their tea. And they said that we were different from other tourists because no other tourists took time to talk to them and get to know them. But again, this was about connecting with family. These were more cousins. This was just like more cousins. The mountain behind them, they said several of them had climbed it from colonial times. They had cannon emplacements up there, and some of the cannons were still there. And there were holes in the ground, they said, for prospective slaves who didn't want to go and were fighting, and they just drop them down in the hole and leave them there to die. They said you can still see that up there. All right, so to conclude, cultures. The culture there is one of friendship and sharing and relating to each other. It's not self-centered, it's community-centered. Everything that I experienced on this trip made me rethink my perceptions as an American citizen, because things that I generally take for granted, some I saw there and some I did not. Some things that I placed a whole lot of value on and importance on, other people, it didn't matter to them. And they were still living full lives with their families. They were happy. So a lot of the tangible things that we think are must-haves, other people don't see as must-haves, and indeed they aren't. You don't need them. They're nice, but they're not necessities. So I would encourage anyone to travel. And there is a saying that travel broadens your perspective. And they say that, like that's an original thought. But the Quran tells us, Allah tells us, He created us into nations and tribes and different people so we can get to know each other. And I can't get to know you if I never meet you. So we need to travel, broaden our perspectives, meet our cousins, meet people we don't know so we get to understand each other. We have more in common than we have differences. Assalamu alaikum. Okay.
And so we're going to break now for the Adhan and Salat al-Zuhr, but I'm going to play, I'm going to have to turn off the microphone here. I'm going to play one of the Adhans that my mom recorded on her trip in Senegal. I think it's this one or
That one.
this one.
Was this kind of like a spur of the moment thing, or was it planned like a long time ahead of the journey?
I don't know when the posting first went up, but I found out about it like near the end of January, and we left March 25th. So for me, it was hurry up and get this done.
So Sean, now all the things you experienced and pictures and stuff, is that all part of the plan tour that the sister put together? Or is that just what happened, you know, like because of the trials?
The sister who put it together had an agenda or an itinerary of different places we were to visit. But what happened when you get there is a whole different thing, you know. But all the different places we visited, she had planned out in advance. She had transportation arranged for us everywhere, um, and she had tour guides for us. And each of us had a separate hotel room. We didn't have two people in a room. Everybody had their own room. So.
Brothers, if you don't mind clearing the breaking way, we just put them to the side because we are going to have a community meeting in the same room and the similar setup. So just move them enough to the side such that we can create 2 rows for Salah. And please take some chairs back for the sisters so they have some chairs as well.